Tonight, tributes for the veteran radio broadcaster John Laws, who's died at the age of 90. Hello, I'm Jeremy Fernandez. This is ABC News. Two Sydney MPs are flooded with threats after criticising the neo-Nazi rally outside State Parliament. The US Senate strikes a deal, paving the way to end the government shutdown. And Oscar Piastri's hopes of a podium finish in Brazil are dashed after a controversial penalty. A state funeral will be held for one of Australia's most popular and powerful broadcasters, John Laws, who's died at the age of 90. Often referred to simply as Lawsy, he had a distinctive, deep voice that earned him the nickname the Golden Tonsils. At the peak of his career, his reach and influence meant politicians would rarely turn down an interview request from him. Sarah Geraghty takes a look back at his life.
Hello world, I'm John Laws.
His dulcet tones dominated the airwaves for decades.
The disc jockeys.
John Laws started out in radio as a DJ in the 1950s, before turning his hand to talkback as one of Australia's first shock jocks.
Long John's party line, hello? Yes, it is. Speak up. I think people like to hear other people have arguments. It's like watching the neighbours next door.
In life and on air, he was unapologetically provocative.
The way I used to do that in the first talk program I did was to be rude to them. And then Australians don't like you being rude to them, and why should they? And then they would react.
Hello world, this is John Laws.
And anything but subtle.
The impressive thing was the grandeur, all the panoply and style of a showbiz king, the Rolls Royce, the golden microphone, the chauffeur.
But his ability to connect with his listeners and give voice to their concerns saw his ratings skyrocket. In 1986, John Laws reportedly became the best paid radio broadcaster in the world.
You mean, am I worth it? I don't think so, no.
Over the years, there were plenty of controversies, including the infamous Cash for Comments scandals, where he was found to have disguised advertisements as opinions in exchange for money.
It was a legitimate commercial arrangement.
He was also found guilty of breaking the law by interviewing a jury member and vilifying gay people on air. But at the height of his powers, he reached 2 million listeners each morning and wielded enormous influence.
He was one of a kind, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again.
His interviews with politicians were agenda-setting.
First stop for the Treasurer was the John Laws Show.
And he had the ear of plenty of Prime Ministers.
John Laws was an iconic Australian. His voice resonated throughout our nation.
By the time he hung up the golden headphones for good last November, John Laws had been broadcasting to Australia for 71 years.
John Laws, thank you very much for making time to speak to us tonight.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it, did you?
Yeah, I loved every minute. And all I can say is that I thank you for listening, and I hope you can be kind to each other.
The state government's looking to outlaw Nazi speeches and slogans as it grapples with the fallout from Saturday's rally at Parliament House. Police have now revealed they considered trying to block the stunt in court, but lawyers told them they wouldn't succeed. Police are also investigating threats and abuse that have been directed at two Sydney MPs who stood up to the extremists online.
Neo-Nazis on Parliament's doorstep, an image designed to strike fear into the Jewish community. But when Eastern Suburbs MP Kelly Sloan spoke out on social media,
I will not be bullied out of saying what I think.
Extremists turned on her.
Some of those messages were worthy of passing on to police because they were particularly intimidating, particularly violent.
Federal Independent Allegra Spender also copped foul abuse and threats for calling the neo-Nazis out.
We live in an incredibly open, welcoming society, and this sort of extremist abuse really has no place here.
Police are still reviewing recordings of Saturday's rally to see whether it fell foul of new hate speech laws.
Their speeches, the banners that they displayed, the way they presented themselves physically and in combination of the words they used.
But the Premier's considering expanding existing legislation that bans Nazi symbols so it covers more extremist activity.
Can it also accommodate Nazi speech,
Nazi behaviours on Sydney streets, and secondly, to clarify and codify, a Form 1 application doesn't give you a free pass when it comes to hate speech laws in the state.
Police say when they received the Form 1, which is the notice of intention to protest, they did seek legal advice about the potential of blocking it, but they were told there was no reasonable prospect of them winning in court. The Speaker, Greg Piper, says he found out about the rally on Friday and was told the location couldn't be changed. But police didn't take their dilemma to the Commissioner or the Premier.
It is a stuff-up. The Premier, the Police Minister and the Police Commissioner need to explain who's stuffed up.
The government says lessons will need to be learned to prevent rallies like this from returning. Nick Dole, ABC News, Sydney.
And later this hour, Sarah Ferguson interviews the state's Police Commissioner, Mal Lanyon, on 7:30. The driver behind a shocking road rage incident that claimed the life of a beloved tradie in Western Sydney will spend at least 12 years in prison. A judge found that Bradley Wilkinson was inviting a confrontation through his behaviour behind the wheel and used his vehicle as a weapon.
With his name and one of his tattoos across their shirts, Reece Harding's loved ones arrived at court to see justice finally served.
He was the glue that held us together. You know, he respected, he loved us, he loved all his family.
The 27-year-old landscaper was on his way to work last June when a violent road rage confrontation unfolded at Blackett. He was cut off by another vehicle, and as both utes stopped, Reece got out and approached the driver's window. Bradley Wayne Wilkinson grabbed hold of his jumper and sped off for 55 metres. When the defenceless tradie was run over, Wilkinson continued on to work. A judge said there was no reason for Wilkinson to have stopped at the beginning of the incident.
The only inference that can be drawn from this fact is that he was inviting the confrontation with Mr Harding.
Wilkinson was sentenced to 16 years with a non-parole period of 12 after pleading guilty to manslaughter and failing to stop.
There's so much road rage, it's not reported, and there are injuries and people are fearful.
The role of deterrence played a significant factor in this sentence. The judge said hardly a day goes by without news of road rage incidents where people are threatened or injured, and acknowledged increasing public concern that everyone should feel safe behind the wheel.
The message must be sent loud and clear that the use of motor vehicles as weapons will not be tolerated and significant punishments will follow.
Finally, I thought the legal system's waking up. Finally, they're giving a sentence that is deserving.
Wilkinson won't be eligible for parole until 2036. Jamie McKinnell, ABC News, Sydney.
Youth crime rates may be falling across rural communities in northern New South Wales, but tensions are high in Moree after a series of violent incidents. The small town found itself in the spotlight last year after a spike in break-and-enters and motor vehicle thefts, which prompted the introduction of tougher bail laws. The ABC's been given an inside look into a specialist police operation that's been tasked with tackling the issue.
On a Friday evening, the Moree Youth Centre is full of laughter and competitive spirit.
Fun to meet other kids from other schools. Be a good player and be the champion.
This program has become a key part of these aspiring kids' weekly routines.
Keep the kids all together, off the streets, more or less.
For police, it's one way they keep engaged with a community where tensions are high.
They're concerned about youth crime, and rightly so.
For the family of a 22-year-old who was allegedly bashed by two teens earlier this year, the fear is real.
Scared, angry, very unsettled about the whole situation, I think.
So many different emotions.
A high-visibility police operation has once again flooded the streets of this small rural town, which has one of the highest youth crime rates in the state. After a spike last year, offences committed by those under the age of 18 have started to drop. The ABC has been given an inside look into how police are working to continue that trend.
Police presence certainly does have an effect, which I think you've seen tonight.
Over the 3-day operation, 10 people were arrested, Most of them were adults.
Moree residents have seen these displays of force before, and for some in the community, they do provide temporary peace of mind. But even police know it takes a lot more than just this to actually drive down crime in the long term.
You can't arrest your way out of these very complicated problems. We know that. But the police have a role to play.
Experts agree, saying the underlying issues driving antisocial behaviour need to be addressed.
The cost of living crisis, the broader gaps in services in terms of rural communities, these are issues that have been long-standing.
Long-standing issues which require more than a quick fix. Ethan Ricks, ABC News, Moree.
Princess Anne has continued her whirlwind Australian tour in Melbourne today, attending a ceremony at the Victoria Police Memorial. The service was held for the two officers who were fatally shot at Port Punker in the state's northeast in August. Princess Anne laid a wreath. She then spoke to the officers' families. A few members of the public looked on, hoping for a wave, but it wasn't to be, with the princess choosing to keep a low profile during the four-day tour.
It shows her respect. Yeah, she's very respectful royal. We love her.
When it comes to renewable energy, some people say we're wasting it. Others say the system is working just as it should. But a quirk in the grid means wind and solar farms are producing less electricity than they're capable of generating. And it's a gap that's growing as even more renewable energy is added to the grid.
On a breezy day in Western Australia's south, something seems amiss. The blades on giant wind turbines are barely turning at all, but there's nothing wrong with them. There's just nowhere for their power to go. It's called curtailment, a little-known phenomenon that's increasingly becoming a feature of Australia's power systems.
Curtailment in its simplest is when an energy asset generates less than it would be capable of generating.
It often happens when there's simply not enough demand to soak up all the potential supply of renewable energy could provide. And it's most pronounced in the middle of mild, sunny days, when the output from Australia's vast fleet of rooftop solar floods onto the system, pushing out most other generators, including large-scale solar and wind farms.
When there's a lot of rooftop solar, that suppresses the demand that the rest of the market sees.
It is happening quite a fair bit, and it's a byproduct of an ever-changing grid.
At the moment, curtailment isn't a big part of Australia's electricity system, accounting for only about 1.5% of wind and solar production last year. But it's much more than that at times, and there are expectations it'll grow markedly in the years ahead.
Curtailment is something that renewable energy companies are going to have to factor in.
Analysts say batteries will help soak up much of the excess supply, as will consumers who shift more of their use to the middle of the day. But they say some amount of curtailment is inevitable.
The marginal cost of generating that excess kilowatt hour off a solar system on your house is zero. Or very close to zero, and to that extent, no harm, no foul.
From scarcity at times to abundance at others, Australia's renewable energy riddle won't be solved overnight. Daniel Mercer, ABC News.
Coming up on 7:30, the rise in free birthing, delivering a baby without a medical professional present.
I made a very big mistake, and I paid a very heavy price for it. These are preventable and avoidable deaths. I was very lucky that I lived 10 to 15 minutes away from the hospital. If I lived any further away, I would not be here.
A new study indicates there's been a dip in how much Australians trust in democracy. The report suggests only 2/3 of people have faith in the electoral process. And it's outside capital cities where the trust rating plummets. Fewer than 53% of people in regional areas have confidence in election outcomes.
For these students, the right to vote is something they're looking forward to.
I have friends who are pretty interested in politics.
I've made myself know a lot about it because I know it's important.
But new research has shown young regional Australians are a key demographic losing faith in democracy. The study was conducted by McKinnon and is its first annual snapshot of attitudes towards Australian democracy.
I think there are enough warning signs for us to be concerned.
But it's not just young people. The research claims 66% of those in major cities and 63% in regional cities believe election outcomes are fair. But in regional and remote Australia, that number drops to under 53%, while 65% say they don't feel understood or represented by federal politicians.
They don't listen to nobody. All they want is their payment at the end of the week.
So, yeah, I guess it's we're fairly removed and distant geographically from federal politics, I think. Yeah.
There's nothing to, stop people having sensible conversation in a democracy, so I think that's a great thing.
I don't feel they understand the conditions in rural Australia.
As for why faith in democracy is falling in regional Australia, McKinnon cites two main issues: frustration with government service delivery in the bush and the continuing decline in the number of regional media outlets.
The less people that consume news, the lower their confidence in the democracy.
But others say it's a reflection of who's currently in government.
Regional and remote areas whose members at the moment are more likely to be in opposition, that kind of feeds into their trust and confidence in democracy and the system.
A city-country divide when it comes to the state of the nation. Erin Somerville, ABC News.
After a 40-day stalemate, the longest ever US government shutdown could be coming to an end. There was a breakthrough overnight in a special late-night sitting of the US Senate. But the compromise agreement is being blasted by some Democrats who are calling it a surrender.
There it is. With fighter jets grounded for Veterans Day NFL games due to the shutdown, Air Force One flew over instead.
Yeah, baby. Was that the greatest flyover ever? Things are going along very well. Country's doing well. The Democrats have to open it up.
At the stadium, some cheered while others booed Donald Trump as work continued in Washington, D.C. to end the longest government shutdown in history.
Mrs. Shaheen, aye.
Senators voting on a deal in a special Sunday session.
Donald Trump has taken the American people hostage while he builds a billion-dollar ballroom with gold-plated toilets. Therefore, I must vote no.
On this vote, the yeas are 60 and the nays are 40. The motion upon reconsideration is agreed to.
But with a group of centrist Democrats on side, the deal passed. Democrats were demanding an extension to expiring healthcare subsidies, but they failed to get it, with only a promise of a later vote on the issue.
So what happened tonight is not the closing of a chapter, it's the opening of an opportunity. What the chapter it does close is the damaging shutdown that is only getting worse.
The bill looks set to end the 40-day shutdown that has sidelined federal workers, delayed food aid and snarled air travel ahead of Thanksgiving.
I wish the shutdown wasn't happening, especially during the holidays.
That flight got delayed, then it was cancelled.
The disruption is not over yet. While it's a significant moment, the legislation still needs to go to the House of Representatives and then onto the President's desk. Cayman Gok, ABC News, Washington.
At least 4 people have been killed and nearly 1.5 million forced from their homes after Super Typhoon Phung Yuong slammed into the Philippines. It's the biggest storm to have lashed the country in years. Authorities are now on alert for flash flooding and landslides.
Another brutal lashing by nature's fury. The second typhoon to hit the Philippines in as many weeks, making landfall with wind gusts of up to 230 kilometres an hour. Super Typhoon Phung Yuong tracked over Luzon, Philippines' most populous island, giving residents a restless night.
I told my grandchildren to pray for our safety. I was just sitting the whole night waiting for the storm to pass.
They awoke to a neighbourhood in ruin. Evacuations were widespread, from Luzon to the eastern province of Catanduanes, some taken by stretcher. At its largest, the system, the biggest to hit the Philippines this year, was 1,800 kilometres wide.
Because we live near a creek, whenever there's a typhoon, our place gets flooded and waters can reach over our heads.
The typhoon deeply hampering clean-up efforts from last week's Typhoon Kalmegi, which killed hundreds.
It's really heartbreaking because imagine just days before we had another typhoon, Kalmegi, who claimed over 200 lives. And now we are having this super typhoon. Storm's diameter is as big as 2/3 of the country.
Fung Wong, now west of Luzon, is expected to track north and reduce in intensity. Some reprieve as Philippines continues to pick up the pieces. Tim Swanston, ABC News.
The BBC's Director General Tim Davie and its news CEO Deborah Turness have resigned after criticism of the broadcaster's editing of a speech that Donald Trump delivered before protesters attacked the US Capitol. Critics say it was misleading because it cut out a section where Mr Trump said he wanted supporters to demonstrate peacefully. Tim Davie has accepted ultimate responsibility for the mistake that was made. Deborah Turness says it was a difficult decision to leave and that the criticism was causing damage to the BBC's reputation. The US President responded on social media, calling them both corrupt journalists. To finance now, as millions sweat on the potential for interest rate cuts, there have been mixed signals from the RBA. Daniel Ziffer explains.
We'll find out about the direction of interest rates when unemployment data comes out later this week. There are already competing views. Andrew Hauser looks like Wolverine became an economist, and he talks sharply as well. He said today, you don't have to be mad or a fanatic to think that rate cuts could be coming, but there are worries about how much room there is to go lower. Adding to that concern is the central bank's forecast of inflation rising to hit 3.7% by mid-year. Even its preferred measure, the trimmed mean that excludes volatile items, will breach the target band where the RBA wants it. So don't hold your breath. American markets lifted before the weekend, which brought news of progress to end the US government shutdown. Our dollar climbed on those hopes. Not only is the Aussie considered a proxy for the health of the Chinese economy, but for global risk in general, because we're so dependent on commodity exports. And the value of our magic iron ore rocks was flat, but gold is back above $4,000 an ounce. ANZ shares soared, even though profit was down 10% to $5.9 billion, hit by the cost of sacking 3,000 to 4,000 people and wrapping up long-running disputes with regulators. All of our Big Four banks have now reported their results. Income up, but profit down as technology costs and bad loans rise. And that's finance.
The world title hopes of the Australian Formula One driver Oscar Piastri have taken another hit after he finished fifth at the Brazilian Grand Prix. A time penalty proved costly for Piastri. His McLaren teammate Lando Norris won the race and extended his advantage in the Drivers' Championship.
The championship, you sense, is slipping away from him.
This was a team photo Oscar Piastri could have done without. A 34-point lead over Lando Norris in August has turned into a 24-point deficit with 3 rounds remaining.
Just try and get the most out of it that I can. Yeah, try and have the best weekends we can.
And on the inside, Piastri locks up, goes for it, and he makes contact with Antonelli.
The lap 6 incident ended the race of Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, and the stewards gave Piastri a 10-second time penalty.
It was obviously a bit of a lock-up into the corner, but that was because I could see Kimi was not going to give me any space. I can't disappear, but the decision is what it is.
I think Oscar has been hard done by here. I think Kimi could have still maybe held the position, but made Oscar's life easier and not risk that bit of contact.
The pit lane signs summed up Piastri's weekend. He finished 5th. 5 seconds behind Italian Kimi Antonelli, who was second.
Towards the checkered flag.
The Englishman Norris edged closer to a maiden world title with his 2nd victory in a row.
How have you managed to find this rhythm at this stage of the season? Just ignore everyone that talks crap about you.
Verstappen finished 3rd, but a 5th straight world title appears to be out of the question as Norris took centre stage.
That is a trophy and a half.
Leaving Piastri with plenty to ponder. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
The AFL will introduce a wildcard round in 2026. It means the league will effectively move from a top 8 competition to a top 10 competition. So on the weekend of the pre-finals bye, it won't be totally without Aussie rules. The 7th place team will host 10th and 8th will play 9th. The top 6 teams will have the weekend off, and after that, the 2 winners of the wildcard games will join the 5-week run to the grand final. Australia batter Marnus Labuschagne has refused to be drawn into the debate surrounding where he should bat in the first Ashes test in Perth starting next week. Labuschagne has already made an outstanding start to the season with 2 centuries in the Sheffield Shield.
It's one of the major talking points heading into the Ashes series. Where will the informed Marnus Labuschagne bat? But the question isn't one the man himself is being drawn into.
I'm not sure what you're trying to get me to say. It's like a trick question. Would you like to open? I'll bat wherever they tell me to bat.
Lining up against Labuschagne in the Sheffield Shield will be Cameron Green, with the all-rounder set to test his bowling capacity, having been held back in WA's last outing after recent back and side injuries.
I've got no doubt from what I've seen at training over the last few weeks that that won't be an issue.
While that match starts on Tuesday, a host of other Australian stars have already begun their final Shield hitouts before the first Ashes test, with paceman Mitchell Starc one of the standouts.
And the umpire gives it.
The New South Wales quick finished day 1 against Victoria with 4 for 91, while teammate Nathan Lyon claimed 2 wickets.
Great start, Nathan Lyon.
In Hobart, South Australia spearhead Brendan Doggett pushed his case for consideration with an impressive 5 for 66, helping dismiss Tasmania for 209. The final members of England's squad have arrived in Perth, and in a sight sure to please England fans, Jofra Archer has bowled for the first time on the tour after not training last week. The paceman completed a light bowling session, while star batter Joe Root hit the nets, looking to make an impression in a country where he's yet to post a test century. Blake Kagi, ABC News.
Let's take a look at the weather now, and Tom, another gusty change is heading right this way.
Jeremy, temperatures will briefly spike tomorrow. That's ahead of a cool southerly change, which will bring snow to the Alps and could reach buster thresholds along the coast. Today, though, was relatively calm across Sydney, although the air was a little smoky thanks to a hazard reduction burn at St Ives. After a low of 15, the city reached 24, that's average. Bellambi was cooler at 21 and Penrith reached 27. After a weekend change, last night was cold over the inland. Cooma dropped below -2. Today's maximums were also on the cool side, especially on the north coast under cloud. Lismore reached just 21. Now, on the satellite, well, that cloud over the northeast, it thickened up this afternoon as storms developed. Evans Head has already picked up more than 40 millimetres. On the chart tomorrow, a trough and front will sweep across the state, preceded by warm and dry westerlies, but followed by colder southerlies. Around the country, cold and showery behind that front, 14 in Melbourne and Hobart, warm in Perth and 34. And globally, there's been multiple disasters in recent weeks from hurricanes and typhoons. And the total number of named tropical cyclones this year has now hit the annual average of around 87. Preliminary data shows the number of major storms, that's equal to a category 4 or 5 in Australia, is at 23, which is just 2 below the long-term average. Back home now, extreme fire danger and a total fire ban tomorrow for the Hunter and the upper Central West Plains. High fire dangers for other parts of the east and south. Now, for the northeast tomorrow, it's looking mostly dry, just a slight risk of a shower or a storm near the coast. Tops around the mid to high 20s for most areas. That's ahead of a late southerly change over the Hunter and the lower mid-north coast. For the southeast, dry early, then a cold change with showers across the south, falling in snow above about 1,000 metres. An afternoon change further north with a medium chance of showers and thunderstorms. To the west, showers and a possible storm in the south, which will clear up later. The odd shower will reach the southern central west. Warm and mostly sunny across the north. On the waters, strong winds south of Crowdy Heads and gale force winds off the southern coast where the seas will average up to 3 metres. Now for Sydney, sunny early with warm westerly winds averaging up to 35 kilometres per hour, 15 to 28 degrees for the city, a top of 26 at Bondi, 27 in Campbelltown and 29 in Penrith. The slight chance of a late shower or thunderstorm near an evening southerly change due from about 7 p.m, which could be a buster. The sun will rise at 5:45 and set at 34 minutes past 7. And ahead for Sydney, cooler and sunny Wednesday, 11 to 23. Mostly sunny Thursday, back up to 28. Then a shower or two and a possible storm Thursday, 26. Saturday, warm, 31 with possible showers and storms, which should ease by Sunday. And for the west, sunny Wednesday, 27. Then a warm week, mostly sunny, 33 for Thursday. Medium chance of showers and storms Friday and Saturday, 29 and 33. Just a slight risk of a shower on Sunday. Jeremy?
Tom, thank you. That's the latest from the ABC News team. Sarah Ferguson is standing by for you now with 7:30.